During our session together today, we're going to talk about taking your digital retailing game to the next level to close more deals with your digital retailing tools. You may see some statistics referenced here that you've already heard this week. And if you do, they've been woven into our chat today because they help to illustrate the whys. The why of digital retailing, both from the consumer and dealer perspectives, is so important when we think about how to connect with these buyers more effectively. During this session of the Cox Automotive User Summit, we're going to break our conversation into 5 focus areas. We'll talk about the pandemic and how it's impacted consumer behaviors. Obviously, there's been a lot of ways that's happened, right? We'll talk about why that's important to you as a car dealer and how to align your processes with those aligning consumer expectations. We'll talk about some integrations that we've built to try to make that process easier for you and how to connect your digital storefront that you've built to your physical dealership experience. Fortunately, the pandemic's influence has lingered for a long time now. It forced behavioral and cultural changes to accelerate at unprecedented rates in March 2020. And the continuing duration has cemented many of those changes into both consumer behaviors as well as the business adaptations that it forced. E-commerce exploded in Q2 2020, jumping $211 billion from the same quarter 2019, a 32% year-over-year increase. That's not surprising given all the shutdowns we saw, right? But the trend hasn't slowed down, with a report released in August detailing a 40% growth over the previous 12 months. Everyone's familiar with Cisco, right? That huge networking and software company. In a study they commissioned, it shows a clear shift of increased trust and empowerment of employees is not only here, but expected to continue. So enough with that research. How does that affect us? Well, the truth is the pandemic has accelerated the consumer's ability to re-examine where they spend time and provided the capability to reduce or eliminate time spent doing things that they didn't enjoy doing before. My husband is a great example. He refuses to ever set foot in a grocery store again. Creating the list on his phone and having them arrive on his porch a few hours later as though a fairy has delivered them has become the only way he does it. Forget the idea of me asking him to run out quick and pick up some vanilla extract if I run out while holiday baking. So what do these consumer behaviors mean to the automotive industry? Oh gosh, there has been so much change impacting your day-to-day lives over the last 18 months, like forced shutdowns and partial reopenings, working with skeleton crews, new cleaning protocols, new car inventory challenges, and the used vehicle acquisition troubles. That keeping up with them has left little time for much else. So why does your digital retailing process matter in the midst of all of that? Well, let's pull ourselves out of the trenches for a minute and take a look. It has caused dealers to have to adopt processes that allow for shoppers to begin their deals online. Now, none of that's likely to be news to you. We've all experienced this past year together. We've been living it in the trenches, though, which can make it really difficult to take in that 30,000-foot view. So let's take a look at that 30,000 view and focus in on your stores and your customers. I think we can agree that the pandemic has had its impact. Buying things online has become mainstream. Customer satisfaction is higher with the streamlined digital buying process, and it saves time and builds trust. The changes forced by the pandemic have resulted in a 1 hour, 40-minute average reduction in the time spent researching and shopping for a car. Meanwhile, satisfaction scores have skyrocketed to record highs. The traditional steps to the sales process doesn't give much leeway for shoppers to skip steps that they don't feel that they need. Doing some of the steps virtually allows for steps to be skipped in the store, reducing the time shoppers spend in the dealership. And shoppers have been telling us through their CSI survey for more than 2 decades that they're unhappy with the amount of time it took to buy their new vehicle. And now we have the data to back up the theory that customer satisfaction will increase when the time in store decreases. In fact, the number one expectation of shoppers that engage with digital retailing have is that it will save them time at the dealership. Shoppers want to spend less time in the dealership to purchase their next vehicle, and that they're far happier with the process when they have a quick and easy experience. How does that correlate to what dealers want? Well, actually, the same benefits apply to dealers. The top benefits that dealers using digital retailing expect to realize are a more efficient sales process and improved customer experience. So if we've established that digital retailing is mutually beneficial, why is there a need to fine-tune the digital retailing process? Well, to be fair, there has been a lot going on over the past 18 months. And for most dealers, simply having a tool that provided a digital retailing interface was enough to keep the fire at bay. Now it's time to give it more attention because you have to. It has become an established norm for dealers to have a digital retailing solution. And dealers that excel in leveraging their digital retailing experience are poised to widen the competitive gap as soon as inventory becomes more available. It is no longer optional for you to embrace the shift to a more digital sales process. It's here, now. Shoppers are expressing their preference for it, and those who meet their expectations will fare much better in the years to come. So now that we've laid the foundation for the why of digital retailing being important to both dealers and consumers, how do we improve it? Well, consistency builds trust. And with Accelerate, you have the opportunity to align your shopping experience across your website and two of the most visited sites in the automotive space with AutoTrader and Kelley Blue Book. Presenting consistent messaging and payments across platforms adds transparency. We know that today, 3/4 of shoppers are open to the idea of buying a vehicle 100% online. Yet only 1 in 3 franchise dealers feel equipped to do so. Most of the steps that are enabled online today take place in the early phases of the shopping process, determining a payment, valuing a trade, finding information on rebates and incentives, applying for credit. So what's missing? Well, it's the ability for a shopper to truly explore and select F&I products digitally, to finalize the price of the vehicle, as well as the ability to sign digitally. Of course, this has given way for the Carvanas and Vrooms of the world to come in and fill those gaps. Before we get into what lands in your CRM, we have to take a moment to recognize why these shoppers are different. Because we can see the difference in their behavior on your websites when they interact with Accelerate. They've spent more time, explored your inventory, compared vehicles, and then took the time to build a deal and submit it. They've walked themselves farther down that path to purchase. Let's see what that looks like. Here's an example of what an Accelerate lead looks like when it lands in most CRMs. You're able to see the source that the shopper used to Accelerate, and there's a link embedded within the comment section that opens up to display a concise easy to read version of the deal the shopper has created. As you can see, these opportunities don't contain basic lead information. And here's a peek at what it looks like when it flows into VIN solutions. Again, you're able to identify that a shopper used Accelerate, and the Accelerate banner opens to display the current version of the deal the shopper has built. These shoppers are at a different point in their journey. In fact, they remind me of something I worked with every day when I began selling cars. Does this bring back memories for anyone else? Of course, we know that the traditional 4-square worksheet isn't quite the way things are done today in most showrooms, but it still illustrates this point well. Do you have someone capable of working a deal like this? Because they're deals. We have to stop thinking about digital deals being different than deals worked in the showroom. Does the staff handling digital detailing leads have to stop and touch desk to discuss the deal details? Or are they empowered to work the deal themselves? We challenge you to empower some of your staff to become digital sales managers. Change your mindset from working digital retailing leads to working digital deals. Because added benefit, you'll be building your bench for future management promotions. If this customer were in the showroom, how would you work the deal? We've already established that the customer is comfortable with a $60 a month payment. They want a lease for 36 months with 12,000 miles a year. They're comfortable with $2,000 total out of pocket to get into their new car. And they're okay with a $30,125 selling price. There's no trade involved. If your salesperson were in the showroom right now, would you have them stand up and walk out, stand up and introduce themselves? Say hello and greet them? Probably not. Would you have them stop, walk the customer outside to explore all of the inventory on your lot? Of course not. You're going to work the deal from this point forward, right? You've already established what the shopper wants, what car they're interested in, who they are, and what they want to do. You're going to work the deal from this point forward. So let's take a look at how far too many digital retail opportunities are handled. And let's keep this tucked in the back of our minds as we continue with our 30,000-foot view. Because this is a real life example from a secret shop I did recently, where I shopped 5 different dealers, and this dealer actually did better than the other 4. Now remember, I built out a lease for 36 months with 12,000 miles a year and $2,000 total out of pocket. And I requested an appointment for Thursday evening. So the sender is Amber, but Michael introduces himself. All right, hey, this could be an autoresponder. The next one's going to be better, right? So a few minutes later, this one comes in and it's all Amber. But again, there is no mention of the lease I built or the test drive I requested. Yet she's got the nerve to ask me for more information. Sure, I'm dating myself with this one, but does anyone else remember playing this game with their cousins or friends when they were little? How excited you'd get when you landed on a ladder and were able to sprint past the other players? And do you remember how upset you'd get if you landed on a chute and slid backwards? You were ahead in the game, maybe even winning, and all of a sudden you're forced backwards, losing ground. Think of these feelings when you craft your response to digital retailing leads. These shoppers think that they're climbing a ladder, saving themselves time and sprinting ahead in the game, only to hit chutes and slide backwards when they get responses like these. Kevin? Who's Kevin? By now, I'm sure you're seeing that these responses are unlikely to capture the shopper's attention in a positive way. In fact, they're likely annoyed that the deal they spent approximately twice as much time on your site building weren't even read. The work they had completed wasn't recognized, and the staff is pushing them backwards in the process. Here's that Kevin again, and he's suggesting a deposit, yet still not acknowledging the deal I structured or the appointment I requested. So I think we've effectively talked about all of the things that went wrong in those scenarios. What does a good one look like? What are the essential elements that we need to connect with these shoppers? Well, first, validate the offer that they built. Prove to them that you took the time to read it and you hear what they're trying to accomplish. Give them options. Digital retailing shoppers, by definition, are trying to take some control over their buying process. So you want to give them choices in what path they want to take next. No different than those choose your own adventure books when you were a kid. If you want this to happen next, skip to page 47, right? But you're going to offer them choices that benefit you and progress the deal. So, Mr. Customer, would you like to continue online and complete the credit application so we can lock in some of those financing details for you? Or would you rather schedule an appointment to come in and verify the vehicle fits your needs? In either case, whichever path the customer chooses, it advances your deal. But the customer feels like their preference in the next steps matter and they have a voice. So it's important to keep that in play. You're going to talk about next steps and what to expect after that, and of course, include your contact information. Now, is this more likely to connect with that digital retail shopper? Now, keep in mind all those elements we talked about. We want to recognize what the shopper did right off the bat, and you want a subject line that's going to connect with the steps that they've taken. You want to play up the elements of this digital retailing process and how it works into your store's why buy from me. If you're not working this into your overall brand messaging, whether you use our pre-made customize your deal graphics or whether you're creating a custom brand for it, like easy purchase online express buy, fast pass, there's dozens and dozens of them out there. But whatever it is that you want to call it, weave it into your story and sell it as a benefit of working with your store. Then, of course, you're going to talk about the details of the deal that the shopper built. And if they did anything extra, like schedule a test drive, you want to acknowledge it and try to firm up the time. You want to provide options on which step they want to take next in the process. And of course, close up with contact information and what to expect next. Now, of course, if the shopper has given you a phone number, you should absolutely be trying to connect via text message. But don't forget these essential elements when you reach out. You want to keep the deal the shopper built at the center of your conversation with these shoppers. And please, whatever you do, don't switch back to generic templates after the first attempt to contact. Keep working the deal. Develop a strategy for handling counteroffers. Your gut instinct may be to ignore addressing the fact that you can't do the deal the shopper has proposed and work for the appointment. But I urge you to reconsider if that's the case. Give some thought to working the counteroffer instead. Getting a digital retailing shopper into your store under the false impression that the deal they built is one you'll do could result in a scene in your showroom, or even worse, a poor review online. With Accelerate, there are defaults that you've configured with us behind the scenes that power the initial payments displayed on your website. The middle one here is the default the dealer has built with us. They want to show finance payments first, excellent credit, 72 months with 10% down. And this shopper on the left has adjusted the money down from $4,500 to $1,500. The payment went up to over $600 a month. The payment doesn't bother them as much as the fact that they don't have the extra $3,000 to come up with right now. That's more of their hot button. On the other side, you can see that they're okay with coming up with money and they're okay with a higher payment, but they're more concerned with their credit. Something might have gone on in their lives recently and they're a little worried about whether or not you can get them approved. So those crumbs, those breadcrumbs give you guys clues, no different than a qualifying conversation in the showroom, that help you to identify what the shopper is trying to accomplish and how you can help them. So let's take just a moment and reflect on some of the items we've reviewed so far. Most importantly, you need to be able to identify when a digital retailing deal has hit your CRM. So know how it comes in, know what to look for, know how to read it, and take a moment to digest and understand what the shopper is doing. What have they changed? What are they trying to build? Be specific in your response. Show them that you listened. Give them options on next steps, and be ready to think outside the box. If a customer's not sure if they want the gunmetal gray or the silver, offer to do a FaceTime walk around and show them the two cars side by side in the sunlight. Be ready to be creative and connect with them on a different level. As we discussed earlier, shoppers want an expedited process, and dealers acknowledge the benefits of a more efficient sales model. But the only way to achieve that is to adjust the way we view our sales process. How many of you still instruct your BDC and sales teams to avoid talking numbers over the phone at all costs? Or make the appointment the sole goal of your phone and digital communications? We challenge you to reconsider that approach. We know that buyer expectations have evolved. They want answers to their questions now. And if you don't provide them, they'll hang up and call someone who will. Shoppers can go on other sites today and buy vehicles 100% online. Don't let a traditional approach to these questions remove you from the short list of dealers the shopper is considering. What if you flipped the script and handled those questions differently? If the pandemic has done nothing else, it has definitely made virtual meetings a norm that most folks are comfortable working with. Why not try to schedule an online meeting so that you can review your express buy process with the shopper and show them how to customize their own deal? Or if they are not comfortable doing that, let your agent spend an extra couple minutes on the phone with them, walking them through the digital retailing form on a vehicle you have in stock that suits their needs. Talk to them about how much money they want to put down, whether they want to finance or lease, how many miles a year they need, what payment are they comfortable with. They're all very relevant questions that you can find out from a shopper while you walk them through this process. And when you get to the point where the lead form pops up, it's a great segue to collect the shopper's name, email address, phone number, and explain, Mr. Customer, what's going to happen now is I'm going to send this over and you're going to get what's called a deal update in your email. And it's going to recap everything we've talked about here so far and give you a link to go back to the deal and make any changes you want to adjust. And at the same time, all of that information flows into your CRM. So you have it handy to follow up with a shopper about later. And if those options don't work, you don't want to forget to make it part of your Why Buy For Me and sell it to them. Send the shopper a link to the VDP and explain that your express buy process lives right on the page. Or send them a link to the landing page that explains your express buy process so they really understand how it works. Now, if a shopper were to send in a lead tonight at 10 o'clock or if I were to send one in at 4:30 in the morning, because that's more my style, would they receive an automated response saying that you're closed and you'll follow up with them when you're open? Stop doing that. Stop doing that immediately. You're not closed. You have a virtual showroom that is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, with your entire inventory on display for them to explore. Once they find that perfect vehicle, they can also begin to customize payments, value a trade, explore additional incentives, schedule a test drive, apply for credit. And if they submit their deal, you'll be able to connect with them when your office reopens and pick up where they left off, saving them time. So a few minutes ago, we talked about the importance of giving customers options on which path to take next. This is no different. Give shoppers who begin their journey outside of digital retailing the option to schedule an appointment to come in or continue online to customize their deal. Now, I understand that some of the things we've reviewed here are maybe things you've already discussed with your digital retail performance manager already. But you've been so busy in the trenches dealing with all of the changes the pandemic has forced upon the industry that some of these details may have fallen through the cracks. Stepping back and taking the 30,000-foot view gives us the ability to really take a look and do that temperature check to find out what your processes look like today. Do you have the right people in place doing the right things? Are you responding to a deal or a lead? And who's paying attention? Who's inspecting what you expect? We're going to talk a little bit about the integrations that Cox has developed to help make this process simpler for you, because we know that shoppers are in greater and greater numbers, not only considering fully online purchases, but they're also doing them. Adaptation isn't an option because disruptive sellers have already adapted. Accelerate My Deal Digital Retailing continues to build integrations with other Cox Automotive software solutions to better enable our dealers to build a process that allows for a more complete digital buying experience. As many steps as they want to take, think of it as digitally assisted selling. Accelerate My Deal Digital Retailing comes with a vehicle protection menu that includes the capability for VIN-specific syndicated pricing for vehicle protection items through over 100 providers. Because let's face it, we know that the cost of an extended warranty on a Ford Focus is quite different from the warranty you'd pay for on a 2500 HD diesel. And that the cost is different when we're looking at a 60-month, 75,000 mile year protection term versus 84 months with 125,000 miles. With this, shoppers are able to really explore what would be applicable on the vehicle they're interested in and self-discover what they might need. If you're a Kelley Blue Book instant cash offer dealer, know that KBB ICO integrates into your digital retailing to allow for a connection between your digital showroom and your physical showroom trade valuation process. Create that bridge for them. And we know that shoppers start online and then you have to decipher it through a CRM. Before these integrations with VIN solutions released, the shopper built this really nice, neat, concise version of the deal. But when it flowed into their CRM, it didn't have any way to acknowledge it other than to look at it in the pieces that it gets broken down into. So it made it really difficult for dealers to pull together the various pieces and understand where the shopper's at that time and what that deal structure looks like. And then you'd have to work with your managers who would try to take that information you've deciphered and swivel chair it into their desking software. left opportunity for some frustration and even distrust if the numbers didn't align. So we wanted to find a solution for that. So now the shoppers can build that nice, pretty deal online. And when it flows into VIN solutions, the Accelerate link gives you a super easy to read, concise breakdown of the deal the shopper has structured. So it's very easy to understand. And any additional changes the shopper makes flows in, not as a duplicate lead, but as a note in the customer dashboard. And again, that Accelerate banner at the top will always bring you to the most recent configuration of the deal the shopper has built. And then you can push it over to desking. So simply, it's amazing. You literally go to the Accelerate badge, open up that nice, easy to read deal, and then the copy to desking button is right there. So your desk managers can push it over, see it in their VIN Solutions desking tool, and then if they need to build a counteroffer, they can do it right next to the one from Accelerate. So it makes it very simple for them. Easy to replicate, easy to understand. And we've also worked with VIN to help you save shoppers more time by using it proactively on other lead sources. So regardless of where the shopper began their journey, as long as there's a vehicle of interest you have in stock and you've got the customer's email address, you can grab this link and embed it in those responses we talked about earlier so that you can take advantage of that software integration and really make customizing this response to the shopper easy when you try to give them options on what path they want to take next in this journey. And whatever has been done is already in DealerTrack. It's sitting there in Unify for you with whatever information the shopper has built up to this point. So you've got all of their information. You can see what they've done. If they haven't yet completed a credit application, when you work with them in store, you can add it to the deal and it will also flow in here. And we just released new functionality that allows shoppers to upload documents within digital retailing that will flow right into your unified deal jacket. So you can access it here and leverage it with contracting. So these documents, proof of insurance, driver's license, proof of income, whatever you might need, they can upload and it'll reflect right over. Now, for those of you wanting to offer vehicle delivery with remote contract signing, that option is there as well for paperwork with many lenders, making signing paperwork easier with only a few wet signatures needed on some state forms. And there are even some captive lenders offering monetary incentives for eContract usage. So let's take a moment and think about how other businesses connect their digital shopping experience to their physical locations. If you were to create an order and pay online today with Target, Home Depot, Walmart, Lowe's, Whole Foods, when you pull into their lot, they have clearly marked parking spaces designated to that white glove service. Shoppers pull in, self-identify, and have an expectation of a smooth, quick, easy experience. Some of you may remember years ago when the Disney Fast Pass actually saved time, reducing the amount of time spent waiting endlessly in the sweltering Florida heat to go on rides at the park, and how you felt like you won, like you were cutting the line by using it because it saved so much time. Why wouldn't you want to offer your customers the ability to self-identify so you can immediately begin your white glove service? We've touched upon the traditional steps to the sales process, the one that I was taught and used when I worked in stores. And I say this with the deepest possible respect. It needs to change. The steps are still 100% valid, and I would even say necessary. However, we need to understand that the path shoppers take is fluid. They may have already completed steps 2 and 3 before you see them enter step 1. Adjust your qualifying conversations to ask shoppers if they've begun their process online and started to customize their deal. Offering them that bridge, that option to continue with the online buying process while in store, may reduce anxiety and increase trust for some shoppers too. Because if they don't mind sharing where they left off, you can meet them at that point and help them save time. And just like at home, they can continue online, taking as many virtual steps as they want, exploring F&I products, uploading documents, and even e-signing lender paperwork while in your showroom. We've covered an awful lot in our conversation today. The pandemic has clearly had impact in every corner of our lives, and we've talked about how that impacts you as dealers and the importance it is for you to start aligning your process with the evolving customer expectations. We've touched on some integrations that Cox Automotive has invested in to try to make the process flow more smoothly for you, and the importance of connecting that digital storefront you've built with the physical dealership you've invested millions into building. Digital retailing isn't just a tool. It's a mindset and a new way of selling. By implementing the steps outlined today, your dealership can shift towards a digital mindset and set itself up for virtual success.